In the first five today, I just want to tease this story I'll come back to later in the show after our interview today with Kelly Shackelford. In Washington, D.C., we all were celebrating because just a few days ago, the Justice Department announced it was going to drop all charges against Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. We have been over this numerous times in this show. The reason the charges are being dropped is because of evidence that became known for the first time by the criminal defense attorney for Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, Sidney Powell, handwritten notes on the side of documents written at the time related to the Michael Flynn prosecution, or first his investigation, then the prosecution, notes which made clear that inside the Department of Justice, people seemed to be scheming to entrap or frame Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Those documents never produced in the course of the original prosecution, only produced because Attorney General Barr ordered another U.S. attorney to come on the scene, Jensen, review documents to figure out whether or not the FBI, the DOJ, had actually turned over to the defense attorneys for Lieutenant General Michael Flynn everything they're required to turn over, which there's no question about. Prosecutors must turn over all documents that may in any way help the defense. And what this lawyer discovered, U.S. Attorney Jensen discovered, were really incriminating handwritten notes by U.S. attorney officials, by Department of Justice officials, making very clear that they were working very hard to frame Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. That was big news from last week. Big news of this morning. I'm going to wrap up First Five by saying this, and I'll come back to it again after our interview. Judge Emmet Sullivan, the federal district court judge who is hearing this case, who has now before him the motion to dismiss all charges by the Department of Justice, announced that he is soliciting amicus briefs, friend of the court briefs, before he enters his ruling related to their motion by the Department of Justice to dismiss the case. This is unheard of. I will tell you later some of the things that were written down by Judge Emmet Sullivan in announcing his decision to seek amicus briefs that are just, it's an unheard of thing. There are two parties to this case. It is the government, the Department of Justice, against Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Department of Justice saying we want to withdraw all charges, we're done. And instead of granting what should have been a short, yes, of course, you can dismiss charges, we're all done here, ruling, you have Emmet Sullivan instead seeking input from a series of prosecutors who call themselves the Watergate prosecutors, who don't want the Department of Justice to have filed this motion. They don't want the Department of Justice to drop the case against Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. I'll wrap up, and we'll come back to this later, but wrap up the First Five by saying this is an extraordinary development. It really tells a lot of people what is going on. It makes a lot of questions, raises questions of what's going on in Justice Emmet Sullivan's mind, why he would consider doing this. Great papers filed by, we're going to go over them also, filed by Lieutenant General Michael Flynn's attorney, just exposing the absurdity of this, and the notion, the idea that this is not permitted by the rules that govern this court. But Sidney Powell, brilliant filing in response. We'll go over it later. But this is a very big development, really a big window on the effort inside the Washington, D.C. elite to protect the Obama administration and all of the people who are seemingly going to soon face charges because of the investigation by Attorney General Barr and U.S. Attorney Durham. It is a protection. It's also a means to try to discredit Attorney General Barr. More on that later. That, my friends, is today's First Five.